Hey everyone, hey and welcome back to yet another episode of BattleRapresume. This is your host, Tom Quee here. Thank you so much for joining me. Please follow us on Twitter at BattleRapresume. Support us on Patreon, patreon.com/BattleRapresume. Give back to the show, get access to stuff way before it comes out. Message me as well, battleresume@gmail.com. Email me if you want to, come on the show and do like a top 5, or you want to give praise or hate or whatever. It's an open forum. It's all good. iTunes, leave us a review on iTunes. What else do we have? Subscribe, comment, all these things you've heard me speak about a million times. But yeah, really excited to get to today's guest. I love having, especially international, and get him a little bit, I've almost finished. I see sort of England as like the original 150 Pokemon. I've almost got all the battlers, and I'm sort of expanding into the Johto and Hoenn region. So yeah, NILS, how's it going, man?
What's up? I'm doing great.
It's great to have you on, man. Like I've been a fan for a while. I've been watching a lot of your battles, and fair to say, I appreciate it's odd to ask you this, but one of the most unique battlers in the history of this thing.
Thanks.
Let's start with rapping. Like even before battling, like where does it begin for you? Where's your first kind of taste of it? Your first kind of writing, that sort of stuff.
Well, I started listening to rap when I was like 12 years old. Before that, I was into heavy rock, and the first group that I got into was a Two Live crew. They had a song called "The Fuck Shop,"
right?
And that song had both Guns N' Roses and Iron Maiden samples in it.
Nice.
So that was like kind of my bridge, and then yeah, from there on out was pretty much all I listened to, and then I started writing at like 14 or 15, and started getting heavily into freestyling at like 19, and then started battling at 23. Right,
and
which is around the same time that I started like rapping for a living full time.
Right, yeah, I mean, you say, I just want to clarify something, because is it right for me to call you Norwegian? Because in the Rone battle, you say you're from a small country that's occupied by Norway?
Yeah, it's not officially recognized, but yeah, I'm from Eurgh.
Right. Well, I mean, just for our, our ignorant, European listeners, like...
No problem, most people wouldn't know.
Yeah, what is that? What's the status about that?
I guess you can say that Norway wasn't unified as one country until I think 1030, and Yarm was unified in like 525.
Right.
And then obviously Yarm is super small, so Norway just kind of grew around it and absorbed it. But we like to think we have somewhat our own culture, and some of us would like our independence, so let me shout out the Yarm Liberation Organization.
Yeah.
JLO.
Yeah, shout out the JLO. Yeah. I just when you said that in the battle, it was just very, very intriguing to say that. And so when you're rapping, you're getting into the sort of freestyle stuff around around the sort of the later teens. Were you aware of battles, or was it just like freestyle rap? Or
nah. Like growing up, where I'm from, I was pretty much the first kid who was into hip hop, so I didn't have anyone to like mentor me.
Yeah.
So it was kind of random what I was exposed to. So I didn't actually like find out about the whole concept of freestyling till I was 18 or 19, and it just fucking blew me away when I realized that they were doing it on the spot. And by that time, I was already pretty serious about my rapping, and I like kind of dedicated a year almost to learning how to do it.
And is this around the time of excuse me for butchering this, but Undergrund's Legend?
Oh no, that's much later.
Much later.
Yeah, that was my like official debut album. Came out in 2009.
And was there any battle scene at all in the Norway in the Sovereign? Like, were you aware, or was it YouTube that you got into it, or?
No, I actually got into Norwegian battles first. Or I was like I said, I was really heavily into practicing my freestyle game from I was like 19 years old, and after a while people started telling me I should do battles. And I kind of didn't know what it was Like I hadn't seen any battles. I just knew it would be some sort of like freestyling competition. But I always declined because I felt like it sort of wasn't my style.
Yeah.
Then one time, a friend of mine, shout out Gaia, he's done a few good battles himself. He signed me up for one without me knowing.
Right.
And I guess I was kind of too proud. I didn't want to lose. I didn't want to enter, but I was also too proud to back out. So I did that one. And this was at the time when battle rap was kind of surfing the hype from the 8 Mile movie.
Right.
So my first battle was like in front of 800 people.
Jeez.
Who were only there for the battle.
Wow.
And at the time, it was on-beat freestyle battles, and it was like a tournament format. So I made it to the semifinals, and I lost to the champ, but I won the crowd to the point that even in the finals, they were still cheering my name. So that was the night that kind of sort of made me overnight as far as Oslo hip-hop scene.
And was it always NILS and SKILS? Was that always your name?
Yeah. This was in 2003.
2003, yeah, so right off that 8 Miles. So, I mean, your first upload, I guess English upload, we are going to touch on a few of the, foreign language ones as well, I mean, it's fucking crazy that your first battle in English is versus Okwerdz and Disaster. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But to be honest, I think it would almost have to be names like that at the time to get me to do an English battle.
Sure.
Because the whole idea just seems so crazy. And I've been winning a lot of battles. I hadn't lost since 2004 at the time.
Jesus.
So I even though it was, to my fans I felt like I had something to lose. So I wouldn't have done like a random battle versus some guy I didn't know in English. It would take names like that to persuade me. I had never even pondered the idea till Critical asked me about it. But it just felt like too much of an opportunity to not do it, because obviously I've been watching him.
Yeah.
And if I was to ever do a battle in English, that was the right moment. So.
Yeah. I mean, I had Okwerdz on the show a while back, and I remember he said like this was part of a tour that he was doing where I think they battled Tenshu and Lego and Archaic and O'Shea, and they were doing it all in sort of one go. Like, okay, so this is February 2011. This is uploaded, so battle rap in its post WRC YouTube golden era was around a while. Like, who are you a fan of at this time?
I guess the only battler who I feel like sort of impacted my style significantly, it was Marv with what he did in the WRCs. Because I was already like good at rapping and freestyling when I picked up battling, and my style was kind of accustomed to it fit well with the on-beat battles, because I knew when to let the crowd to give them time for their reactions, so my next lines wasn't drowned out, and it was different stuff. You had to think about them, but I didn't have any battlers that I sort of looked up to coming up. But I watched the WRCs at the time. I still hadn't done any a cappella battles, and I noticed how Marv was the first guy to use the new format to get reactions off his setup line. Yeah. Because if you did that in an on-beat battle, then your actual punchline would be drowned out. Because, you would have to keep going because the beat keeps going. So he was the first guy that would, like, quite often get 2 audible reactions from 2 bars instead of, like, setup punch. And I noticed that. So I tried to do that myself when I switched to the a cappella format. So as far as who I was a fan of, that's like the only guy I feel like who like impacted my style. Yeah. But obviously I was watching all the grind time battles and stuff. Yeah. So I was a fan of all of the big names.
And what was the experience, battling in English? Did you feel that your punchlines were a little diluted? Because it doesn't really seem that, to be honest with you. But you do mention it. You mention it in the Rone battle as well, that you haven't got the vocabulary that you necessarily would have in your native tongue. Is it constrictive or?
Obviously, it feels like running with some real heavy boots on.
Yeah.
But it was good for me as well because it made me change up my style. Because in Norwegian, I know you can't tell from my English battles, but I'm a very well-rounded rapper. So I have like a lot of tools in my toolbox for my Norwegian battles. Like I know I can win somehow, some way. Like I can choose my approach and I can switch it up. But in English, I'm obviously not able to make it sound impressive. So I felt like I knew I would have to like drown out my opponents with crowd reactions. Like just the old school way of like winning by having like way more reactions. I felt like that was the only thing I could do. That was the only way for me to win. So it made me focus a lot more on like I've done a bit of stand-up comedy as well before.
Right.
And I know some like humor theory.
Right.
So I applied more of like that mindset where you kind of sort of count laughs per minute. And you know, a lot of the criticism against my style in English has been that it's too slow-paced. Because I'll say the words kind of slowly and I'll take my pauses. But if you count the time between each reaction, then I'm going a lot faster than most people. So I was just putting a lot of emphasis on not having too many words between each reaction.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you say that because you know, obviously you don't tweet too much in general, and you can put that by half in English. But I've always been a fan of you on Twitter because you always just give these really pithy, interesting analyses of battles. And I just found this tweet because you talking about that reminded me of a tweet that I remember you thinking. And you tweeted this August 15th. The first round by Pat Stay versus Big K is really well written. If you look at the number of words between each reaction, one of the best of 2017. Which I've never really considered that metric when thinking of battles, but it's a really successful one to judge by, isn't it?
No, for me that was the mindset that I applied. I feel like that was what gave me the edge in my English battles. That was how I could compensate. So yeah, that was, and I think, you know, as far as efficient writing, that's definitely a very important factor. Like if it's a cappella and the rounds are limited to like 3 minutes or whatever, you really can't waste any words.
Yeah, and you and Shazaam are teaming up against Okwerdz disaster. You teamed up. I think it's 5 times you've teamed up, something like that. You know, very, very, very often. What was the sort of rehearsal process, the writing process going into this battle? Were you meeting up a lot? Was it phone calls or?
No, obviously we live in different countries,
right?
So we didn't meet up during the writing. We just emailing each other back and forth. Like we would build 4 bars each usually, and you know, it was unlimited, so so it was a lot of bars to write. And at the time, I didn't really know Shazaam personally,
right?
But we had battled 3 times already, me versus him, because he was like the Swedish champ for a good few years, while I was the Norwegian champ. So they would pit us against each other. So I knew him as a battler, but not personally. And then I went to stay with him for like 2 days before, I think. So we had some time to rehearse. And yeah, that was it.
And looking back on this battle, your sort of intro, I guess, to a certain extent to the culture in the wider scheme of things, are you happy with the performance? What do you think, reflecting on it?
Now, you said you would fuck his mother. That doesn't seem so great. Congratulations, you'll return home with Swedish AIDS. And you said we're still friends after he raped me? You need to research more. Because I battled this motherfucker 3 times and I'm 3-0.
Obviously, I'm happy because it was such a huge leap for me personally. And also it's, you know, you're really blessed to be part of something like that, because it's I mean, it's one thing that you're battling a couple legends and it's a good battle that stands the test of time, but in addition to that, it's much more monumental. The fact that it's, you know, it was actually the first time that American battle stars battling in mainland Europe. And you know, this was the first battle of their tour. So it's like it has like a place in history, even besides like the quality of the battle. Which I think is you're just blessed to have like stats like that. So yeah, I'm real happy with it.
No, for sure. I mean, it's hugely viewed battle, very close to hitting 500,000 at the moment. So, you know, tons and tons of viewership there. And this seemed to...
And battling was huge in Sweden at the time. It was really popping. So, it was a good moment. There was like 600-700 people in the building.
Jesus Christ, that's insane. Like, what is it like
and
now?
Like, I mean, you people in England, I feel like... I mean, obviously, you're not to blame for it, but you don't know what a legend Shazaam is either. It's like you know, none of his biggest battles are in Swedish. No, I mean, none of his biggest battles are in English. I think he's second only to O'Shea in the number of battles on cam as far as Europeans.
Jesus.
And his like 3 biggest battles collectively are like way past 3 million. In Swedish. So he was a big name there too at the time we did the battle.
And what I mean, just out of interest, as a sort of chronicler of this thing, like, what is the Swedish scene like now? Is it still big, or?
Nah, I think it's close to dead.
Wow, holy shit!
But it's hard when you have you know, Scandinavian countries don't have the same roster, so the battles, the matchups get used up, and you don't have the aftergrowth. Is that a word?
I guess so. Yeah.
It's to like support the movement over time. But they had a really good run.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the Don't Flop is dead at the moment, so even the greatest giants can fall, it seems. So, and you know, this marked a huge, you know, aftergrowth for yourself in a certain sense. 2011, you know, you had ridiculous, like you have. I know these battles take place over more time than it seems, but in the space of, you had 4 uploads on Skis TV in 1 month in April 2011. Like, how are you so prolific?
That was actually they were done over a longer time span than you would think, because when we started up with Skis TV, it was just super low key, and a friend of mine was filming the battles with like a cam that had DV tapes, and it was such a hassle to digitalize the battles afterwards. So it just took a while, and we had a good batch when we started uploading them. So I think I did some of those definitely in 2010.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. You do look quite young in some of the thumbnails, actually. So maybe there was... and I
still look young.
Yeah. Your hairline sort of recedes and proceeds as well, so that's interesting. But I want to get to the first battle. I remember watching this battle years ago, just because it had Cruger and Eurgh in it, which is so cool to see. You don't really see them as a team going out and battling. Like, okay, they did Bender and Lopez and other ones like that, but this is a huge battle. Like, how did this battle get arranged? Them coming over to battle you and Shazaam?
I don't really know, because it was critical to set up everything. Like, I kind of, it may be superficial, but I somewhat kind of pride myself in the fact that I've never flown a big name out to battle at home.
Right.
And all my international battles are like, it's not based on the fact that I'm the local guy. All my international battles are abroad, and I haven't set up any of them. So I don't know if it was Eurgh's or Critical's idea, really. I was just asked about it and agreed.
First of all, shout out to Henry Bowers. Oh! Yes! Yeah, he gave the audience some thrills. Then again, he's half Norwegian, and his first name is NILS. Now, please don't take offense if I call you a fag in my bars. You may think, but I'm not. But by Norwegian standards, you are. Now you got that Piff James Seizure in Art Class t-shirt, and your jacket is purple, but no amount of colors can make Cruger or Eurgh cool. Your swagger is still Urkel.
Up until this point, obviously Cruger and Eurgh, like through Grind Time, through Don't Flop, they were already legends, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess how early you want to call someone a legend. I mean, Eurgh more than Cruger at the time, but he was at least a big name.
Yeah. I mean, okay, legendary status maybe was a little bit early to say, but yeah, a huge name. And was this exciting for you to get your teeth into someone to battle someone English, or was it just to battle, a new person?
It was still a big deal for me to battle in English.
Yeah.
I guess that was more than someone English, but obviously I knew both of them well as battlers and respected them, and I was excited about it.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people listening obviously are going to know Eurgh and Cruger very well, but maybe haven't seen this battle, even though it's got a lot of views, and it is a really good battle. I love how in their first, saying like Norway's a nice place, but it's fucked up. They're putting hot dogs in pancakes, and then you sort of say that you've never seen that before in your life in the first.
Yeah, I really didn't. It was actually Henry Bowers who explained to me afterwards what he meant, and yeah, I can see how it kind of looks like a pancake. But lumpe is like a potato cake.
Okay, and you've got to sort of attack the stereotype. So in their first, your dick's as big as an IKEA pencil. The Wiz Khalifa blue and yellow. They talk about you're as white as a ghost that's just seen a ghost. It's just they just go with the bars really well. Viking of the Dart. I mean, you get so many Viking bars against you, don't you?
Yeah, I guess it's not the worst heritage to represent.
No. I suppose not, no. And,
But shout out to Ogmios, though. He had definitely the best Viking bars.
Yeah. And he had some great NILS flips as well, which we'll get into. Your whole name thing, like he definitely played that really, really well as well. And yeah,
in retrospect, I'm definitely more happy, I think, with the Okwerdz in this battle than with the Cruger and Eurgh battle.
Yeah.
But it's still good enough. And I think also that as long as you got, like, some highlights that you can sort of put in your imaginary reel, and at least it wasn't for nothing. Like, I like the Greenland is green line. Yeah.
And the sausage party Mad Dicks, bruv, is really good as well.
And also it was I think this is the battle where I said wrapping it darker.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Which is obviously Eurgh was the first one who said it, but he didn't say it ironically, and I was the first one who made a thing of it.
Right.
So, and that became sort of like a part of the battle rap vernacular.
Oh god, yeah.
So that's cool. This is a battle where I introduced that. So cool.
Yeah. No, and they have a good second as well. Your glasses make you look like Bart's friend. Call you Nilhouse. Pale Dork looks like a male Bjork. And I think they when Eurgh's like, you rap like you're trying to teach me English, which is just kind of like it kind of hits it on the head there quite well actually. And a lot of stuff about Shazaam's chin as well. Stop stealing Quentin Tarantino's chin. And yeah, again, Viking funeral, coming overseas, you're getting burned, which is, it's not too bad here. But you guys work well together as well, you and Shazaam. Like, it kind of plays off how laid back you are and how hyperactive he is, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was like I said, we didn't know each other before we did the first battle, so you just had to kind of choose an approach, and it was I will say it was a little inspired by Quest and Marv, where Quest was like the one who works the room and Marv just stands there and gets the laughs. No, it works well. And,
we get to see a lot of your flip ability. It's kind of partially what you're not. You got a lot of trademarks, really, to be fair, Nils, but like it's one of the things that people point to. And you are a fucking brilliant rebuttalist, aren't you? Like, what's your process? Do you just sort of pick out bars? Is it very natural to you, or?
I mean, it's real close to what I do for a living.
Yeah.
Just, freestyling is my main occupation, and I do a lot of. Since I have kids, I try to not be on tour all the time. So I do a lot of shows for like places where they're not selling tickets, they just have like a budget for entertainment, like a conference or whatever.
Right.
So often I'll just sit for a few hours and observe, and then I'll go up and do punchline based on what just happened. So I'm used to like premeditating stuff in my head and being able to stack up a lot of bars and also freestyling like completely in the moment. So I think I have a lot more experience in that than most people. And obviously when it's in English, then I'll know what to say, but it takes me often a good while to know how to word it, like make it rhyme and stuff. So the process is slower in English.
Mm-hmm. And so just to reflect back on what you were saying about what you were doing as a job, freestyle. I'm just interested. So what, you'll go to like a business meeting and like freestyle about it? I'm not quite clear what this is.
Well, not a business meeting,
right.
As a conference. Maybe that's the wrong word in English. In Norwegian, it's a konferanse, maybe.
Right.
But like, say the last one was like it's about internet safety, and then they have a lot of businesses who like bring one guy.
Yeah.
There's lectures and stuff. There's lunch, more lectures, blah blah blah, and then to give them like something uplifting on the way out, sort of. I just go on and rap for 5 minutes at the end, and it's stuff like that.
But, yeah. It's just that's something that would never happen in England. So it's just kind of cool to hear about.
When it's places that are not trying to recoup from tickets, you can charge a lot more. So it's a nice market.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Yeah, I get after dinner speaker.
Like my next job now is some sort of award where like Bernie Sanders is the keynote speaker, and I'll be rapping about him and stuff.
Holy shit!
It's
oh my god!
Yeah, all kinds of events really.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's very, very cool. And I don't know if you remember, I like how in this battle, at the start of each of his rounds, he corrects Shazaam on what words rhyme and what words didn't in his verse.
Yeah.
It's a good tactic. It's quite a sort of unnerving battle tactic. Like, it's not just a flip. It's like you're doing this wrong. Like, and we're going to remind you for it. And it works fine. And you guys, like, I'm just marvel at how long you have a 12-minute closing round. Like, it's very impressive.
Well, thanks. Like, looking back, I think we should have edited a bit more, especially Shazaam. But it was at the time, unlimited battles were still kind of new, and it just felt like you couldn't be the team who had the least material. Like, we can't let them drown us out yet. So.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, a really successful battle. And was it? I mean, because it was like 2 months later in YouTube time that you were on Don't Flop for the first time. So were you soon after over to London, or?
Yeah, I don't think it was too long between. I think 2 months is about right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And was this your first time in the UK?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what did you make of the place, just as a general visitor?
I have such a horrible memory, but I don't think I got to stay for like too long outside of the. Oh yeah, now I remember. I actually stayed at Cruger's place.
Oh right.
And he stayed with his mom. Like I stayed at Kruger's family's place. This was before they had like hotel budgets.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the venue, it was like a small venue, not too big of a crowd either.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was in Brixton.
Yes, Brixton Jam. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a cool little event. It was the first time Zayn Azrai was introduced to the world.
That's right. Yeah, against Most Prob. Yeah.
Yeah, and I met him before the battle, and
right.
I had no idea he was battling. And he told me that he was. Oh fuck! I forget the country he's from. Malaysian.
I think he's Malaysian. Yeah.
Yeah, and he told me that he was a battle fan and he was aware of me, and he had reached out to Malaysians in Norway and had them translate my Norwegian battles.
Right.
So he actually knew my Norwegian battles.
Wow.
And that was crazy for me. Like, I go to England the first time and I meet this guy was like reached out to Malaysians in Norway and had him translate my Norwegian battles. But obviously, when he was a battler, it made a little more sense. And you know, if he's like legit kind of autistic, then it makes even more sense. I didn't know at the time.
And it must have been really exciting for you, you know, not only to have battled Americans, you know, battled the UK guys, but also to come over to Don't Flop. We're going to get into King of the Dot in a moment. Like, the scene was popping off, wasn't it, globally? Definitely.
It's like, yeah, I remember Shazaam said it to me once when we were in Australia. They're like, you know, we've been battle rapping for a good while before this wave came. Like, it's like it's like a Ferris wheel, you know, it goes around. And like this time we were like the two guys from Scandinavia that got picked up, and it's a long time till someone else gets to spin. Like,
no, that's that's a good way of putting it. And the next battle I want to get to is a battle that I remember Organic tweeting about this battle.
Let me say before you leave the Gasp and Depths battle,
please.
Shout out to those guys. A fun fact: I always had one regret about that battle because one of them says you look like you can name every star in the solar system, and I rebuttal that by saying, if I start naming all the stars, you're definitely not one of them.
Right.
And it always annoyed the fuck out of me that I didn't point out how stupid it is to say all the stars in the solar system.
Right.
Because obviously the sun is the only star in the solar system.
Oh, shit. Well, I mean, like, now you can put that to rest. That is that's still a good flip. Still a good
so it's
flip.
like annoyed the fuck out of me that I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
But I like my closing 4 bars, and I walked by and her pussy was like, "You get inside."
I spent about 450 bars in on-camera battles this year. That just about equals your battle career. 500-page shows, I'm a pro and a legend. You're just not worthy. I'm who you hope to be when you're 30. I've been a threat, dog. Talking shit in that blog, it's the dumbest thing you've done since you taught your mom how to read the internet log. Don't let your ego grow, cause you're suddenly known. Style-wise, you still a struggling clone looking for something of your own. Solo, I'm undefeated since 04. It's like I'm stuck at the throne. My style is never seen before. Like a rebuttal from Rone.
And, you know, with King of the Dot now going over there to battle Rone, which is a fucking great battle, this one. This is a really, like, you know, I love this battle. Like, it must have been very exciting because even more than Don't Flop, King of the Dot were doing it huge, weren't they, at this time?
Yeah, and also it was my first solo battle in English.
Yeah,
so
that's
I had,
true.
More freedom, sort of. So yeah, it was. That's one of the battles in my whole career that I put the most work into, as far as rehearsing and stuff. Yeah, I took that one super seriously.
Yeah, it shows, and you know, one of the things that King of the Dot has here is those early interviews, you know, before the battle, which are really, really fun to see. Sorry, you feel like you're fooling people with your English skills, is something you say in the intro. And do you remember Rone, like, clowning your name, just being like, it literally means Nils with skills. It's like he could be called Rone in the Zone.
Yeah. They should still do those.
Yeah, they were great. But yeah, I'm not quite sure why they don't do them anymore. But yeah, the classic event, Definition in the background, Henry Bowers is there as well. You say at the start, 6 months ago, you never thought you'd be rapping in English. And someone says it's Avocado's last event filming. I'm not quite sure what they meant by that, because I'm pretty sure Avo was, you know, doing everything consistently from that day on. But, you know, it was,
he announced his retirement before that event. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, that's interesting. I'll have to talk to him about that when he comes on the show. But
I'm sure, you know, you can imagine he's been fed up a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah, I can only imagine. And it's a bit, not awkward, but it's a bit harsh perhaps, where Rone's kind of going in on obviously the you know, terrible tragedy that befell Norway, and he mentions it in his first line.
Yeah. I mean, it's a battle.
Oh, right. I mean, yeah, you're not going to take it personally, but it's just, you know, you sort of mention it as well there. But Rone,
I acted like I was hurt by it.
Yeah.
To turn the crowd against him.
Yeah, it works.
But I wasn't. I mean, it's a battle. It's cool, but it was just. I felt like it was a smart move for me to make it seem tasteless.
Yeah, you know, definitely. And I mean, Rone, like a big name for you to face, wasn't it? They could have given you any old, you know, anyone really, but Rone, you know, from Grind Time on, he was a heavy hitter.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was still sort of more up and coming than he is now, but he was already getting big names, and but nah, I don't feel like they could have given me any name, because, you know, it's a long trip, and I'd already like battled Eurgh, Cruger, Disaster, Okwerdz, and sort of, if you look at the response from the online response at the time, it was sort of clear that I belonged there. So I don't feel like I should have went there and battled someone low tier.
No, definitely not.
And I don't think I would have made the trip for it. But at the end of the day, it was Critical was the guy who had like the biggest say for what opponents they picked for each one of us. And so shout out to him.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, you have this way.
He obviously gave me the best matchup out of the three of us. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you have this way, you know, you sort of pinpoint certain things about an opponent that really, you know, stick with you. And you know, you say that your style is something no one's ever seen before, like a rebuttal from Rone, which again puts the impetus on him. And it's quite funny. Do you remember he's like, you said I don't rebuttal shit? You're damn right. Yeah,
it's I went back and forth with myself over that one, because I do some I do a lot of like mental visualization preparations, where it's sort of sometimes different scenarios that are like potential outcomes. They come to me so I can sort of deal with it in advance. And I think at first when I wrote it, I had like more focus on the fact that he couldn't rebuttal. But then I was worried if he did, then it would sort of make a big chunk of my round invalid. And then when I was doing the visualizations, that sort of came to me. Then I realized if he does a rebuttal and I take credit for it, then it can be a good thing for me. So suddenly I had to like switch my mindset in how I wrote it, because now I want him to do a rebuttal. So I didn't want it to be like, he had never done a rebuttal, so I felt like if I did it at the last bar, then maybe it wasn't enough time for him to think of something.
Yeah.
And also it might be too obvious that it was like a challenge. It was looking like a trap. So I wanted to sort of veil it a little, like it was just like a metaphor, but still kind of hoping he would take the bait. And then I put it at like the last bar before the last two. So he would have like 20 seconds to think, but it would still be fresh in the mind of the audience. And so yeah, it worked.
No, it did. And he sort of coasts with it, and you know, he has a lot of Ronisms. You know, running an Aryan race, called up the Nazi party and organised a Nazi party. You know, only likes his orange juice concentrated. All this sort of stuff here, and I love how you talk about how anti-American you are in your second. It's quite refreshing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't get why I did that, but it's a remix of one of Rone's most famous lines at the time. Because what I say is, I'm Saddam Hussein with Che Guevara's brain, Osama's rage, and the balls of the soldiers who sent you home from Nam and shame. That's the same. It rhymes the same syllables as Rone's original line, which was, he said, "I'm American as shit. Yeah. I'm Johnny Wayne mixed with Tom McClane mixed with John McCain." So it was like a remix of that one.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Since his started with "I'm American as shit," that's why mine started with "I'm anti-American as shit."
Yeah. No, it's really successful, and you talk about how white you are. You spend the whole night doing this. You do the classic white guy dance move with the two fingers in front of the eyes, in front of a strobe light. Like, you're so nonchalant, but you're such a killer. Like, it shouldn't work. It shouldn't work, but it really does.
Yeah, I think I know how to pull it off. But also the white thing was also a theme from one of Rone's previous battles. Where he said, "I'll outright you, and then I'll outwhite you."
Yeah.
So.
And you have like such a great like one-liner as well in your third. Never was a field as corny as you.
Yeah, somehow that. Yeah, I never expected that line to sort of live on like it did, but
no, it's really good, and just some of the imagery as well. Obviously, sort of Rone's gay, so it's like his fantasy is deep throating the horn of a unicorn dressed in a cop uniform.
Yeah, I just like doing random stuff like that sometimes.
Yeah, that's not necessarily something you'd say after a Bernie Sanders talk, but I mean, it's still it's still really, really good. And you win, man. You come all this way, you take the victory. You must have felt great.
Yeah, it was cool, yeah, I had credible judges as well. It was Marv, Solkan, Rocky, even though he didn't vote for me for some reason. but still, I think it was for me. I thought it was cool to have a battle judged by Rocky, because at the time he was the guy that was everywhere. Like you couldn't see a battle and Rocky wasn't there, and he had judged so many battles. So he was like a staple.
And you did a freestyle battle. Is that the next day against Sharon and O'Shea?
Yeah, it was supposed to be Sharon and HFK, but he no-showed, and O'Shea just stepped in.
Good old O'Shea.
Yeah, I mean, he's never hard to ask.
No, he's always down for a battle, definitely. Yeah, but there was really cool foursome there. And you went to Australia as well. You mentioned that before, over to Got Beef. Again, were you just sort of pinching yourself, really, just traveling the entire world?
Yeah, man. It's a blessing.
And you battled Cortex, which I've never seen. Any memories of that battle?
Yeah, I remember it quite well. I mean, it's not my best battle. It's not the best guy I've battled either, but I still feel like I have those few lines that I sort of I'm just happy I went there so I could say those, and like they're in my mental highlight reel.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are a few parts there, at least one that I'm real happy with.
And here in dear old Blighty, when we think about the all-time great Don't Flop events, we think about To The Test 10, which is just when all the pieces came together. Really, Don't Flop was really gaining huge momentum here. And you versus Uno for this, remembered very fondly, more for your performance than Uno's, but remembered very fondly.
You're still a fucking rookie, Uno. We're different weight classes. You want to be NILS working your freestyle, it takes more than glasses. I have never battled anyone gayer than you. Everyone knows when you speak directly into someone's ear, you're making a move.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the 4 battles in my career that I look back at and I'm like real happy with it. And I think it's hard for people to understand now looking back, because he kind of diluted his brand. But at the time, Uno's last battle before this event was the Lunar Sea battle, which was pretty much the best performing new battle the world had ever seen almost.
Yeah.
So at the time, his momentum was huge. And I was real nervous to battle him, because I felt like it was, at the time, like I said, it was after the Lunar Sea battle, and it felt like he was the first guy I battled in English that could like potentially out-funny me. And that's like the only move I have in English. So I know that if he drowns me out and gets the biggest reactions consistently, then he's gonna win. And he's not like, I could try to rap, but it's rapping better than Uno is not like a big deal. So I was really nervous about that one. That's also a battle that I put a lot of work into.
Yeah, and I mean, it look obviously to the test end. I always say looks great. The crowd are just so hungry, so vibrant. The stage is jam packed, you know, with A-list names. I don't know if you would appreciate this, Nils, but definitely our UK listeners, Lady LaSure, who's kind of quite a big rapper over here now. She went viral off some freestyles. Her song opens this, and this is like 3 or 4 years before she ever became famous. So it's just kind of interesting to hear her here. And this is the penultimate battle of the event, and you kind of like Uno, like talking about how his mom makes popsicles from a period.
Yeah, that was my approach. Like, to out Uno him. Yeah. Definitely, at least for the first 2 rounds, and also like I was kind of focusing on what I was talking about with the laughs per minute. Like my second round, I think, like, sort of depending on where you put the threshold, I would say I think I have something like at least somewhere around 25 decent audible crowd reactions. And I spit like, 24 to 26 bars. And I think at the time that was well ahead of what anyone had done ever in battle rap as far as like the frequency of the reactions. So I think like technically I was real happy about that.
No, for sure. I mean, you go with the Uno, you go directly with like impression of Uno, sonically, and you say, I love how you like your uncle's a scientist. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, I love that too, because it's you gotta have like the crowd in the palm of your hand and make them expect something else. Like I'd done enough lines before, like your sister pole dances and funerals, and to like where it seemed absurd to just say that he's a scientist, and that's like still like from the technical point of view that I apply, it's like your uncle is a scientist, ha 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 ha, as a laugh from the crowd. Nothing wrong with that. Like 3 more words, new laugh. Like,
yeah.
So it's, to me, that's like efficient writing. And I was real happy about that, because I felt like that was like, I felt like that was the one area where I could sort of lead the race, even in English. And I felt like when that battle dropped, like, I don't know if people notice, but if they do, like, in that one area, it's far ahead of what anyone has done. Yeah. So I felt like I sort of set the world record in something that I cared about.
right. Humor theory, as you say, like, it's playing into, and I mean, and it doesn't have to be humor. Obviously, you can do punchlines with the same intensity, and now people do. I mean, after this battle, you have people like Conceited and Daylight and B Magic applying sort of the same efficiency, but to a different way of writing, but they still can punch every line for a good stretch. So I feel like by now it's probably been like surpassed, at least because the way they do it is more advanced. But at the time, I felt like it was like cutting edge. And then, probably the most memorable part for a lot of people in this battle is your flips in the third, where Uno's clowning on your girl in the second. And you talk about how you've got her standing next to Dose, that way I know she's not tempted.
Yeah, man. To be honest, that's one of the best rebuttals ever, man. Yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah.
The look on Dose's face is priceless. But also, if you look at the video and you look at Philly Swain, who's right behind me, it's like he sort of cracks up a little, and then you can see him looking over at my wife. My wife is not in the camera, but you can see, like, I was there. And then he looks over to my wife, and he can sort of tell that it's cool, and then he like laughs out loud.
Yeah, and then you follow it up, with another one. If you can take her off your hands, it's a double win for me.
Yeah, like I told her in advance she wanted to come. Like, if you want to come to the battle, it's like I'm definitely throwing you all under the bus if you're mentioned. because I'm not letting it be like handicapped. So she was informed in advance that if he went there, it was likely to happen.
It's just a brilliant battle, and it's testament to Don't Flop at this time as well that they could have two internationals face off, and it wouldn't be, it's just in the vein of what it is. Just a really good time, really impressive battle.
Also, like the fact that after those rebuttals about my wife, that was like 8 bars of freestyle rebuttals, and then he said something. I was able to add the 4 more bars about the flex digits reference.
Yeah.
And that was a huge line because it happened right before our battle. Flex Digits jumped off stage and punched a guy in the crowd for talking during battle.
Right, shit.
So it was just before our battle, and that's why the line hit so big. And that was the first time, I think, that I sort of made it to 12 bars of rebuttals in an English battle, which was like, I like that as well.
Yeah, crazy, and just so good, and like was it interesting for you as well?
12 bars in one round,
yeah,
consecutively.
Yeah, and it must have been cool for you coming back to Don't Flop and seeing it had made such moves from last time you were here.
Oh, definitely, and it was my first on stage battle as well, I think.
Yeah,
which is a little different. But it worked out well. But I still prefer the pit, definitely.
Oh yeah. I think most people seem to. And you next faced off against little would you know, a Hollywood screenwriter, Mr. Kid Twist with Bodied. Which I've not seen yet. I'm sure you haven't either. Most of us haven't. It's just been at the festivals. But I mean, Kid Twist, a supreme writer, wasn't he back in the day?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. He's one of the greats.
Yeah, oh yeah. Hell yeah. And I mean, how was this battle for you facing off against him?
There's a couple of factors that made it a bit different for me. First of all, is like I always write my battles instantly when they're locked in. Because like when I hang up the phone and it's like the battle is booked and I have 0 bars, that's like a super duper uncomfortable feeling, and I get sort of scared.
Right.
And I have to write the battle while that fear is in me, like the excitement. So if I don't finish it the first day, then I'll just continue the second, but I really don't do anything else until I have enough bars. And the Kid Twist battle was the first time ever that I wasn't able to do that. I was just super busy, so I accepted the battle knowing that I wouldn't be able to write it for a while. And that just doesn't work the same for me, because if I can't write it while the first excitement is there, then it starts feeling like homework. And it's just much less of an enjoyable process. So I started like trying to think of bars like 11 days after it was booked. It just felt like such a hassle. And then I never got anything done. And one night I got drunk off Irish coffee.
Right.
And I'm super sensitive to caffeine, so I couldn't sleep the whole night. I wrote the whole battle that night, and I felt like it was just fucking the most brilliant shit ever. Like, It was a gift from God. Like, woo, thank you. Like, the battle almost just was like, what do you call it? Like, channeled.
yeah, divine intervention.
And I woke up the next day and I just felt so blessed, like, ooh, because that battle had been like a worry for me since I hadn't written anything. And I was like, ooh, like sort of God intervened last night, and now I have the most brilliant battle ever. Like, thank you, Irish coffee.
Right.
And then I had lots of other stuff to do, and I just sort of trusted my initial gut feeling about my material. And then also this was, I don't know if you know, but the biggest website in Norway is vg.no, which is the website of the biggest newspaper.
All right.
And they made a documentary about me at the time.
Oh, right, wow.
So they went with me to Toronto for the Kid Twist battle. The documentary is still online. It has like well over 700,000 views in 4 episodes.
Holy shit!
Which is huge for a country of 5 million, you know. So yeah, so they went with me to film for the documentary. So I had like I didn't have much time to focus on the battle while I was there, because it was shooting different scenes and interviews and stuff all the time. But when I was on the plane on my way over, I started like looking at my material more critically and realized that, you know, it kind of had to be drunk to think it was that brilliant.
Right.
So I started like removing the worst bars, but I just didn't have the time to replace them. So especially my second round, like I went into it knowing I had to do a lot of freestyles, which kind of worked out well, because that ended up being the only round I won in the battle, like as far as consensus. But still, it was for me to be like actually doing a headline battle versus a local favorite. It was a big thing, and I'm happy about it. But I also felt like it was a big difference. Like you could really tell the difference battling someone from Toronto versus Rone. Like I had to work really hard to get the reactions, and it felt like if I got too many, then it would hold back, so so I wouldn't like get ahead.
Yeah.
Also, my third, I did like more sort of rapish style, just to sort of, because he can't rap.
Yeah.
But every time I do that in English, I have regrets afterwards, because it's still so far from what I'm actually able to do.
Yeah.
It's not what I wanted. So I kind of regret my third a little bit. But still, if you look in the comments today, I think the majority is for me.
Yes, they are.
And on top of that, the VG.no was allowed to incorporate the battle in the last episode of the documentary. So the battle has another 130,000 views on their page, and if all those Norwegians had viewed it on YouTube, then the comments would be more in my favor.
Yeah.
But no, even though it's not my best battle, it's still I'm happy about it, because it's just a cool feature for someone who, you know, this is the only time this year I've been speaking English for this long. So
right.
It's not like, no, it's still absurd to me that I was able to pull it off.
Yeah, no, mad impressive, man, mad impressive. And talking about impressive, you battled another Canadian great. You battled Pat Stay on Ozone Battles.
Now fuck you, your enormous frame and all your raps. Lifting your opponent in a tight hug. How fucking corny is that? You're stupid as fuck for not backing out. I'm battling Pat Stay. What the fuck is there to be enthusiastic about? You're big, you're ugly, but you're not good at rapping. You tried to punk me.
Easily the biggest name you've faced at this point, right? I guess maybe Diz, but like one-on-one.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Even though at the time I would say Diz was bigger, but that was 2-2, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, the Pat battle. Aside from him picking you up, what are some other memories from this?
It was a little weird. I was actually supposed to battle Swave Seva at that event, and it was locked in. And I kind of wanted that battle more, but the guy who was throwing the event really wanted Pat Stay to come, and Pat Stay wanted to battle me, so I ended up accepting it. They had a decent budget, and I don't know, it's I mean, in the building it was a very clear 3-0 for me. On cam, I feel like it depends on what you like, but it's not my best battle, and it's definitely not his best. Actually, for me, personally, the coolest thing about that battle, because it was like a big event that had a lot of musical acts performing as well. It was like a weekend thing, and we all stayed at the same hotel. So the morning after, when I was alone at the breakfast buffet, I heard this guy, a voice behind me said, "Oh, you killed that tall dude, man!" And I turned around and it was J-Ro from the Alcoholics.
Right.
That was like, for me, I think that was the best moment of the battle. And also before the battle at the hotel, I met a guy who recognized me from the arc in this battle and started giving me props. And it turned out it was Copyright, who I'd been listening to, but I didn't know what it looked like. It was a cool weekend. But the battle per se, I mean, I feel like I won, and I'm happy about that. But I feel like he ruined it, and it's a weird battle. I feel like I feel like he knew he wasn't going to win, and he was like trying to daylight the situation. Like, probably break off the battle, but at least make sure that what people talk about afterwards isn't who won.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that I'm better than Pat. It's just, and he's not much better now than he was then. But at the time, I felt like I was just sort of kryptonite to his usual approach. Like, you can't out tough me, or like I definitely felt like we both knew I was gonna win. You could tell when we interacted before and everything, and I feel like the only thing that in retrospect, I sort of regret going through the battle after he picked me up, because it's already ruined, and it's not gonna be what it was supposed to be. But when it happened, I just felt like my only thought was, nah, I'm not letting you not lose the battle. We both know I'm gonna win, so you just have to almost act like it didn't happen, because I'm not letting you break it off or interrupt it, or like have a scene like you are gonna take this L.
And no, interesting. And I mean, the last battle, I really want to.
I like that. There's some little details, like even if it's the greats have like much better battles in their resume, then I feel like I was the first to do animal bars, I think, versus Pat.
Right. Which
other people have done later. And the same way, I feel like I still have the best eyebrow bars versus this.
Right.
Just little shit like that I appreciate. Yeah. But it's definitely not one of my favorite battles.
Sure. But I mean, you know, it's Pat, so we got to sort of touch on it. And the last battle I really want to speak about is the only battle of yours that I've actually seen in person. I was there in the crowd for you versus Ogmios.
I asked some girls outside what they think about Ogmios. I said, well, his face is kind of ugly, but his body's gross. You think that if you perform your spoken word poetry over hip-hop beats, then it's rap music. It's not. If you want to gain some momentum for your songs, the very least you're going to have to do is get shot.
It's a good battle, isn't it? But is it fair to say it didn't quite live up to expectations for some people?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Definitely, at the time at least, I think the battle is sort of it stands the test of time much better than its initial impression.
Yeah.
But no, I agree.
I mean, Ogmios, you know, so much of the battle is about how similar you are, how much he sort of copied you and stuff like that. Were you aware of this guy? Were you a fan of Og?
I was aware of him because, like, Eurgh has been trying to book me versus him for the longest.
Yeah.
Like, ever since he had started getting a decent name, Eurgh really wanted to make that battle happen. And me and O'Shea wanted to battle for a long time. And Eurgh was always like, nah, you got to take Ogmios first, blah, blah, blah. And after a while, I sort of gave in. But by then, I had recognized that he was really good. And I think the first time I really liked him, I think, was versus Real Deal. But by the time I battled him, he had done a lot of brilliant stuff. I think the battle is sort of... I hadn't been to Don't Flop for a long time.
Yeah.
And the crowd had sort of changed. So I think my material suffers a bit from me sort of misjudging what kind of crowd it would be. Because the first times I went to Don't Flop, it was people were very well informed about past battles.
Yeah.
So you could do references to their prior stuff, and everyone would catch it. But the time I battled Ogmios, it was a really big venue, and I think some people were perhaps there for the party and the event, and some were there to see like Big T and DNA, and some of them didn't know me, some of them didn't know Ogmios, and those who knew Ogmios maybe didn't know, like, because I did a lot of alien stuff, and that was mainly like his early battles where he would all the time talk about him being an alien.
Yeah.
But he had already like sort of distanced himself from it a little bit before the battle. So I think that the crowd just they didn't think as the alien guy when they saw Ogmios, because most of them I think hadn't like seen too many of his early battles. And I think that made my approach hit not as hard as it could have. But I actually watched the battle yesterday in preparation for this, and I still like my material.
Yeah.
But I think I think the battle would have a lot more replay value and be more of a classic or closer to a classic if Ogmios had edited his rounds a bit more, because we were supposed to have like 2 to 2.5 minute rounds, and if you watch the whole battle, then collectively over the 3 rounds he raps like 4.5 minutes more than me. So it's like pretty much, it's 5 rounds against my 3 almost.
Yeah.
And I think if he had like edited his material more and stuck to the agreed time, then it would be a much better battle. But it's still good.
Yeah, no, it is still good, and he spends a lot of his time on your name in the first. Thank you, Lord of Rap. Never thought I would clash someone whose name contained a /. He's got name flips. You've got name drift, which I always really like as well. And he just goes. I love the little interplay.
And Ogmios has that ability to say something that, which is kind of similar to me. He can say something that a lot of people wouldn't get a reaction from. But when he says it, the way he says it, then people sort of get that it's funny. Yeah, no, for sure. I love the little interplay you have about the secret door, like when you sort of go back and forth, and that it's really funny. Yeah, that was, that was. I think that was real clever of him to like. I mean, it was pretty safe to expect I would at some point be looking down, because I'm usually so focused on my rebuttals when the other guy raps that I just sort of zone out. And I think that, I think it was a really good approach from him. And I was just happy I was able to sort of save the day coming up with the rebuttal for it. Which ended up being one of my biggest lines in the battle, even though I think I have other lines that I like more. But
yeah, I like your flip in the second where he sort of says in his first, Norwegian dude needs to go home, and you're like, there's nothing wrong with that, you fucking asshole.
Yeah, it's kind of the same simple style, just the way you say it and point it out, even though there's not like a great point there, but just, come on, of course I have to go home, like I'm not moving the leads.
And, this is sort of your last battle in English up to this point. This was uploaded in February 2015, so a long while ago now. I mean, there's a few more battles.
I actually did the most proud battle 6 days after the Ogmios battle.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I guess in verse tracker time, but I appreciate what you're saying. Yeah, the most proud battle was a little bit. Are you ever going to battle again in English, or?
I'm not sure. If you had done the interview a month ago, I would have probably said no. Now I'm a bit more undecided. It's to be honest, I feel like it's so hard to top what I've done, because I would have to actually like be able to speak English frequently. I feel like if I was to like get to sort of the next level, so I feel like I can only. It's always going to be different battles when you have different opponents, but it feels like it's very hard to top what I've done. So I'll definitely be selective about it, but No, I might, because if I want the trip or it's an opponent I would sort of like to add to my resume or whatever. But I definitely don't feel like I have to do another one at all. Like I'm very happy with the run I've had. But we're actually, it looks like I might do a 2-on-2 with in Berlin with me and Henry versus Shufflo.
What, really? Oh shit!
Jolly J's been really trying to make that happen, and so yeah, that might happen like January or February.
That'll be dope.
Yeah, it would. Like, I don't think we stand a fucking chance against them, but still, it's gonna be a good battle.
Yeah, that'll be good.
I mean, I think we both would have a good chance against both of them individually, but in a 2-on-2 battle, I think it's not a chance for us. But still, it's they're legends to me.
Oh yeah,
they're one of the few guys who like really brought something new.
Yeah.
So it would be a good moment.
Yeah, hell yeah, and yeah, shout out Henry Bowers as well. I need to get him on the show soon. He's a legend as well.
Yeah, man. He's like all his battles are good. You know, he made his name first from like spoken word poetry, I think. So he was, when he did his first battles in English, he hadn't done a lot of battles in Swedish. It wasn't like a battle MC like me and Shazaam were. But he did his first battle in Swedish versus Shazaam, who was like the top guy, and he did really well. And so he's done like only a select few like big battles in both Swedish and English. He has only good battles.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, the guy's command is very, very impressive. So we'll wrap up with a few quickfire questions, Nils. Your favorite don't flop battle? Do you have a favorite don't flop battle?
Wow, it hit me yesterday because I listened to some of your previous interviews. It hit me that you would ask me that, but then I wanted to like go over some and pick one, but both my kids are sick, so they were home from school and kindergarten today. Right. Didn't have time for it. Like just completely off the top. Maybe I remember Question Marv. Was that versus Shufflo?
Oh yeah. That was
That might be my favorite.
That's a fucking great battle, yeah.
Yeah. Also, I think O'Shea versus Tony D was a good one.
Classic.
Yeah.
What about King of the Dot?
I think Cortez versus Halloween is still like a real classic. So good. Pat Stay versus Head Ice is real good.
Yeah. That's so good, yeah. Good choices. What, are you a URL fan, Nils?
Yeah, of course.
So, your favorite URL battle?
That's hard. Maybe Big T versus Sue Surf.
Oh my god, what a fucking battle that is.
Yeah, it's a good one. And it was like a classic at the right moment.
Yeah.
Like it really kind of made both of them.
Yeah. Tiny environment as well. Yeah, no, there's a good choice. And final two questions.
I think the double impact battles from URL have been great.
Yeah, there's been some good ones.
A lot of good 2-on-2s now.
Yeah. 2-on-2s are kind of back.
I loved seeing goods and clips.
Yeah.
Like a much more laid back approach, which worked so well now that everyone's so well rehearsed and going back and forth.
And final two questions for you, Nils. The first one, your favorite musical artist or band that are in no way hip hop related?
I think that would definitely have to be Django Reinhardt.
Okay, who are they?
Or perhaps my pronunciation was too Norwegian. Django Reinhardt, or
the guitar player, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, nice.
The inventor of gypsy jazz.
Yeah, good choice.
It's like when you put his music on, life feels like a fucking cartoon. It's like it's amazing. I love his music.
All All right, and finally, what your favourite film?
I definitely could pick a few Norwegian ones. Actually, there's a Norwegian one that's like made, an animated Norwegian one that's made primarily for English dubbing. That was called Free Jimmy.
Okay, not heard of that.
I really like that one, but as far as like Hollywood films, I really liked Man on the Moon.
Oh yeah, Andy Kaufman, good film.
Yeah, I'm a big Andy Kaufman fan. Like, apart from the movie as well. Like, and also I like the Truman Show.
Oh man, what a film! Yeah, what a film. Yeah. So, are you a Jim Carrey fan, or is that just a coincidence?
I think it's a coincidence. Yeah.
Okay.
It's more more like a fan of the. Like, I maybe even could have said the Matrix, but I like the whole like questioning the construct of reality.
Yeah.
Sort of. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this has been fascinating, man. I guess finally, how do people get at you? Like your music, your Twitter, that sort of stuff.
My music, of course, everywhere is like Spotify, or if you want to download it from iTunes or whatever. I just made a SoundCloud not too long ago and put a new mixtape up there this year. Did you listen to the track I told you to? I know you didn't, because you wouldn't commented.
I get asked to listen to a lot of tracks, Nils. I'm afraid I didn't know.
Let me tell you, it's the track I sent you is the first track from my mixtape, and the first thing you hear, like before the whole tape starts, is your voice.
Is that right?
Yeah, I sampled you.
Oh right, wow.
So the tape starts out with you saying, "Nilsson skills obviously proper established." It's from the Most Proud interview.
All right. Well, this has been great, man. No, seriously, thank you for coming on. This has been it's been a real treat. Yeah, I appreciate it, bro. This has been awesome.
Thank you, man.